Good afternoon. My name is Zsófia Vincze, and I would like to present you my PhD topic, which is the evaluation and comparison of different complete denture processing technologies. I'm a dentist from the Department of Preclinical Dentistry. My supervisor is Kristina Márton. My scientific methodology supervisor was Kata Kelemen and is now Bianca Goazio. My vision is to resocialize edentulous patients into the community by providing them a durable and well-functioning complete denture. I was working on two projects. The first one is investigating the mechanical properties of denture-based resins, which is a systematic review and network meta-analysis. Edentulism is very common, especially in older ages, which leads to functional limitation and can cause social isolation. According to the United Nations, by the end of 2050, there will be twice or even 3 times more aged person than nowadays. That is why we have to be prepared and be able to provide a solution for them. The most common treatment option is the complete dentures, which is traditionally made by the dental technician, but it can take longer time. Using the newer CAD/CAM technology, the additive 3D printing or subtractive milling, we can reduce the costs and number of clinical steps needed. When a patient is using a denture, it repeatedly undergoes flexing during mastication, and it can cause a fracture or a crack. And if the surface of the denture is rough, more bacteria and candida can connect to the surface, and it can lead to oral infection. That is why our aim is to investigate the mechanical properties of different types of denture-based manufacturing techniques. Our clinical question: is there a difference in mechanical properties of CAD/CAM produced complete dentures and conventional complete dentures? Our hypothesis is that there is no difference between the conventional milled and 3D printed denture bases in terms of flexural strength, surface roughness, and flexural modulus. We would like to find alternative methods to produce complete dentures quicker and cheaper without the decrease in quality. Here you can see our search key. With that, we conducted a systematic search in 4 main databases at the end of November 2023. And first, we got a little bit more than 17,000 articles. By the end of the selection process, we could include 63 eligible full text. Because of the shortness of the time, I would like to show you only two of our outcomes. The first is flexural strength, which is the ability of the material to resist bending deflection when force is applied to the surface. When we are talking about a complete denture, high flexural strength is very, very important because, as I mentioned, it repeatedly undergoes flexing during mastication, and an average bite force of a human is around 100 Newton, but the maximal bite force can be even more, around 300 Newtons. So it means that if the flexural strength is low, our denture will break. That is why there is also an ISO standard which says that the minimum flexural strength for an acrylic denture base has to be at least 65 megapascal. We can measure it by using the 3-point bending test when the specimen is laying on 2 support pins and the force comes from the top, and first it bends the specimen and at a certain point it will break. Here you can see my plots. The first is the network plot, where the orange circle represents the 4 fabrication methods. The size of the circle shows the number of specimens which was made by that technique. The line between the circles shows the direct comparisons, and the number on the lines shows the number of articles where these comparisons were made. On the right, you can see the p-scores, where the value range from 0 to 1. The higher the number, the higher the likelihood that the given technique is in the top rank. If it's closer to 0, it's more likely that that fabrication method is in the bottom rank. In this case, the milled technique showed the best results. And on the bottom, you can see our heat plot, which contains point estimates of relative effectiveness for all possible pairs of fabrication methods, along with 95% of confidence interval obtained with random effect model. Here, the effect was the mean difference. We can see that the milled technique achieved the highest flexural strength, and the 3D printed achieved the least. The stars show those comparisons where the difference was statistically significant. The other outcome which I would like to present is the Vickers microhardness, which is defined as the resistance to indentation. Dentures can be damaged by many ways. For example, we can scratch the surface during brushing, and it results plaque retention and can cause pigmentation, and with that we can reduce the lifetime of our denture. So just to put it simple, if the hardness is low, we will reduce the denture's lifetime. We can measure it by the Vickers hardness test, when a pyramidal-shaped indenture is pressed to the material surface with a certain load. And after that, we measure the size of the indentation, and using these numbers, we can calculate the Vickers hardness number. Here again, I will show you the same plots. For this outcome, we could include 16 in vitro studies. In this case, the injection molded group achieved the highest p-scores, followed by the milled group. And in the heat plot, again, we can see that the 3D printed group got the worst results. And again, the stars showed where statistically significant differences were found. The strength of our project is that we could include a high number of high-quality studies which use standardized measuring technique, but not all the studies investigate all of our outcomes, and in some cases they used different measuring units. And also the heterogeneity was quite high. In conclusion, we can say that milled denture bases show superior mechanical properties compared to other methods, so they should be used in practice, but 3D printing needs further research to enhance the mechanical properties of the material used in that technique. We submitted this manuscript to the dental materials, and it was accepted just before Christmas, and now it is online available. And I would like to shortly introduce my second topic, which is the evaluation of microbial adhesion of traditional PMMA resins and CAD/CAM-based dentures, which is also a systematic review and network meta-analysis. As I mentioned in connection with my first project, adhesion is very common, especially in older generation, which leads to functional limitation and can cause social isolation. The most common treatment option is the complete denture, which is either done using the conventional technique or the newer CAD/CAM technology. Even in a healthy person's mouth, there are bacteria and candida living, but in case of a denture wearer, these can connect to the denture surface and cause oral infection, the so-called denture stomatitis, which can reduce the patient's quality of life because they feel pain during eating, swallowing, or speaking. And it is especially dangerous in case of immunodeficiency or immunosuppression because the bacteria can spread to other organs, for example to the lung, and can cause an inflammation there. So that is why our aim is to investigate the microbial adhesion of CAD/CAM-produced complete dentures and conventional PMMA dentures. Our clinical question: is there a difference in prevalence of microbial adhesion of CAD/CAM-produced complete dentures and conventional PMMA dentures? And our hypothesis is that there is no difference between the conventional and CAD/CAM denture bases in terms of microbial adhesion. With this project, we would like to reduce the incidence of denture stomatitis. We conducted the systematic search at the end of October last year in 4 main databases, and we found a little bit more than 5,000 articles. Right now we are working with 32 eligible full texts. Right now we are at the data extraction phase. So just to sum it up, I was working on these 2 projects. The first one is online available now, and I would like to submit the second one at the end of this spring. I would like to finish my presentation with the words of Edward Teller: "The science of today is the technology of tomorrow." Thank you.
I have a question regarding the second topic. Do you plan to investigate any subgroups regarding the second topic?
Yes. Right now we are planning to make 2 big subgroups based on the incubation time, because most of the studies incubate the specimens for 90 minutes, and the other big group is 48 hours, so 2 days, and of course we don't want to measure them together.
Did you make subgroup based on the different kind of 3D printing methods? Because we know that there are different kinds in dentistry.
Yes, also in the studies they used different technologies, and we were thinking about creating subgroups, but finally we pulled them together because there were not enough articles to create subgroups, and also if we would differentiate between SLA and DLP, for example, which was very common, then we should also consider the printing angulation or layer thickness as well, and sadly we don't have that much data about 3D printing, but it would be very interesting to see the difference between these.
Was there a difference between upper and lower dentures, like as the lower denture is more subjected to fracture? And the second question maybe, was there a mention of the retention influence of the milled dentures compared to the conventional one?
I will start with the first question. In our study, they were in vitro studies, and they didn't print a full denture. They just created a tiny specimen, like a block or something. So it could influence the fracture rate, of course, the shape of the denture. So, of course, there are differences between the maxillary and mandibulary, but those in vitro studies which we included didn't write about it because it was only a block or a cubic-shaped specimen. And sorry, can you repeat the second question?
The literature, like the retention of the milled dentures compared to the conventional breast or injected molded dentures.
The retention?
Yeah, the retention.
Well, I can just repeat myself, sorry, because they were in vitro studies, they weren't put in a human mouse, so there are no data about it.
You mentioned at the beginning this 65 megapascal is the limit, and you also mentioned the result showed that 3D printing technology is lower in fracture rate than the others. But
yes.
What about this, if you compare to this minimal level, or what do you say?
Most of the cases, they were above this 65. So, for example, if we are talking about the milled denture, it was above 100, but 120 or 130. The average of the 3D printed was also a bit above the 65, but there were some brands and some types where it was a little bit lower. So I guess when they got...
Do you have, if they are reaching the minimum value?
They are reaching...
Question that why you don't want to, I don't know, break a track or whatever.
Yes, they are reaching, but I believe there are differences in the quality. So, for example, a milled base can be used for a longer time than a 3D printed. As far as I know, they already use 3D printed denture bases in the USA. In Europe, I'm not sure. I think they don't really use it yet. But when we are thinking about quality and which is better for our patient, then we should take it into consideration which fabrication method we choose.
It would be fair to mention that this is a new technology, and if some of the study already above these 65 values, then probably this in the future this will be okay, because maybe a 5-year-old 3D printing study is not the same as last year.
Yes, of course.
So, and also, have they mentioned anything about the post-processing? Because I heard that the post-processing can make a huge material injury.
Yes, most of the studies just wrote that they use the post-processing technology according to the manufacturer's guide. And actually, in most of our outcomes, it wasn't very visible and we didn't really investigate it. When we checked the surface roughness, it became very, very important. And sadly, they didn't use the same protocol, and in our result, it is visible. So they used different size of papers, but they used for polishing, and I think that in this outcome, the surface roughness, it became the most important, and also we had to write it down that there should be a study where all these post-processing techniques are the same, because we couldn't really compare to each other like this.